Well, let's ask. Donald Trump's presidential campaign may mark the first time since the advent of modern primary system here that the candidate with the winning amount of delegates is in danger of not becoming his party's nominee. The Dump Trump movement at the GOP convention is reportedly picking up some steam. One of its leaders, Kendall Unruh, says there's enough support on the convention's Rules Committee to release delegates who don't want to vote for Trump. Kendall joins us now to explain. Before we get to that, Kendall, do you want to just address what we were saying a moment ago about, is there somebody who you are leading the charge to kind of push for a VP that could kind of placate everybody, bring everybody together?
You know, we're not, and let me be very clear that voters don't vote on the vice presidential pick, and a reminder that the delegates on the floor also have the ability to nominate a vice presidential pick and to vote individually on that. So actually it's the voters and the delegates at the National Convention that will be selecting the vice presidential pick. So as well as the fact that we will be selecting and nominating the presidential pick, the presidential candidate pick. So right now we've actually polled over half of the delegates and 70% are in favor of unbinding. Now, I'm going into the rules tomorrow with the conscience clause, but that does not give the permission to unbind. It's a inherent right that's been supported by the Supreme Court decision and recently the Virginia decision that says that a state cannot inflict itself and pay any consequences to a delegate if they choose to unbind. So the rule is actually a codification of something that already exists. So whether it passes or not, and I do have the 28 votes.
Yeah. Oh, 28. Okay, that's significant. Well, the count.
Yes, it's a minority report, and then it moves on to the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But on this point about the conscience clause, though, I mean, listen, if I'm a delegate and I don't want to vote for Trump, why don't I stand down? I mean, the point is to express what the voters want ultimately, right?
Well, because actually the delegates are the ones that are doing their job to actually use wisdom and discernment and apply the knowledge that they have at this time subsequent to the primaries, which are not votes. They're actually just preference polls. And now it's the job of the party within our representative system, within our constitutional republic, to actually take that job seriously and make the best decision for the good of the country, for the good of the nation. And the fact that the open primaries and the blanket primaries brought in all the Democrats and the independents to give us a Trojan horse candidate, that we now get to decide, do we rubber stamp that candidate, or do we, as Republicans, actually choose a nominee that's going to reflect the Republican system and the Republican values and the heritage of our party.
It's a job.
This election is too important.
Yeah, no, it's extremely important. But you know, if I in my job feel as though I object because of my conscience to what I'm being asked to do, I resign. I mean, that's, you know, you say, I can't do this, and so I clear the way for somebody else.
No, that's not what America's built on. No, America's actually built on the God-given right to conscience. It's why the Pilgrims came here. It's why we have a Bill of Rights. It's why the Constitution codifies that right to conscience. We cannot force a doctor to perform abortions. We cannot force the Mennonites to go into a draft. That's actually something that is inherently systemic to every single individual in America. And this is no different. It's already been proven, and the state or the Supreme Court decisions already proved it, but then the recent court precedent that's been set as of Tuesday actually has driven more people into our camp because they realize they can't be punished for unbinding. They're already unbound. They were afraid of the hammer.
Yeah, bring it in the panel for a second, Elon.
What happens if you all get the 28 votes you need to pass this out of the Rules Committee or to present a minority report to the full convention? What happens if it fails, you know, at that full convention vote? What are your options then? What do you plan to do?
Oh, that's okay. Yes, we have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, and you're going to all of it employed because we have the resources to do it. We have the WHIP program to do it. We have polled over half the delegates. 70% are in favor of unbinding. They already realize they have the tool to unbind. They're free to be unbound. And now that the hammer of the state has been removed, that threat that we're going to prosecute you and have you put in jail if you unbind, that's off the table. So it brought in everybody from the woods that we were waiting to, and we have the numbers.
Real quick, what's your plan B?
Well, our plan B is to take the action to the floor, and it will be taken to the floor because we have the numbers to do that. And that's what's exciting because we're actually going to have a convention, and that's our job, to be delegates and actually make those decisions. And it's going to be a convention the way it's supposed to be instead of having the RNC control it and mitigate our voice.
We'll see you out there, Kendall. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Kendall Unruh is our Colorado Republican delegate. It is time for